Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. A quick shout out to my newest patrons, William B, Jim F, Alfred C, and TEN224. Thank you all for choosing to support the channel. To start, I just want to make it abundantly clear that anecdotally, the reason Robotaxi isn't scaling is because the service is not ready to scale. So no, it's not the regulations are holding it back, and no, it's not Elon slowing things down purposefully, trying to manipulate the stock for this potential merger or acquisition. And I will touch on that a bit more later, but the main reason it's not scaling is because of the evidence we're seeing in the real world. Abhimanyu shared in Austin, where Tesla's been operating now over a year, his wait times have been 15 to 25 minutes, but he's still getting rides that take 55 minutes to show up. And yes, the cumulative number of vehicles badged in the fleet has gone up, we'll call it around 90, but that does not tell us how many vehicles are operating at any given time. And he said despite the increase in fleet size, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. This from somebody that's taking rides nearly every day. And to make the point, Robotaxis getting stuck in loops is not a one-off. Texas Tesla just shared a video of his Robotaxi looping 6 times and adding an extra 20 minutes to the drive because it could not pull over. So thinking about that from a general public standpoint, you get to your destination, you can see it out the window, but then you sit in the car for another 20 plus minutes before you can actually get out. Ethan McConnell, who is pro Tesla, he just finished an internship at Tesla, said he took an unsupervised Robotaxi ride and his car got stuck in an infinite loop at pickup. He waited 20 minutes watching the vehicle circle around the block. He said, "I think this might be the new worst pickup in an AV for me, certainly not a great customer experience." In short, he said his takeaway is Robotaxi has the highest highs and the lowest of lows for AVs. But the floor has risen because at least the service is actually usable at this point, meaning we're moving slowly beyond that real beta phase. In the comments, Spencer and David had a similar experience. And Arion shared a video of his Robotaxi getting stuck in a loop while parking, and ultimately having to call support. Here's another video from Arion. This Robotaxi took almost a 40-point U-turn. Now he said eventually it figured it out without having to call support, but just not ideal. And watching the video back, you have to wonder what's going on. Like, why doesn't it just back into that driveway and proceed with a normal K-turn? And from Abhimanyu, in that anecdote where it took them 51 minutes to actually pick him up from the time he booked the ride, he said he could no longer edit the pickup or drop off after the booking. Here's one from Ethan today. Took a Robotaxi back to the looping spot, it passed the pin and spent a couple minutes cycling between drive and reverse. I've had this happen at pickup and drop off a few times now. The car gave up and is looping the block now. And Ethan said pickup and drop offs have significantly regressed from my experience 3 months ago. Hopefully the team will make this a priority because it's been a consistent problem in my rides over the last few days. And there are other anecdotes out there I could share, but at this point you get the point. This is not a service that is ready to be scaled. And I'm not just belaboring old points here, but it seems like as of today, over the past few weeks, things are moving in a negative direction. And yes, I know this is anecdotal, but it's really all we have to go off of unless you're somebody living in these cities taking rides on your own. So, contrary to what some people out there are saying, even if Cybercab were to be fully validated tomorrow, that does not mean that Tesla's going to start flooding these markets with hundreds of Cybercabs. Until we see more reliable pickup and drop-off performance alone, we are not likely to see real scale. And look, you can call me negative, you can call me bearish, whatever helps you sleep at night, but ultimately, I'm just trying to make sense of what we're seeing Tesla go through right now. So I do think we'll get another new city to launch either this month or next. Perhaps it is San Antonio, but per the usual, just expect that city to be a handful of vehicles for the first few weeks and maybe even months. If you haven't seen this, Microsoft reported that a Russian-linked organization has been compromising captive portal Wi-Fi at hotels, conference centers, and other shared travel networks, and then they've been quietly redirecting people to steal logins and the cookies for those sessions. So at this point, you don't even need to receive a phishing email to be compromised, it's now the network itself that becomes the attack. which is why anytime I'm on airport or hotel Wi-Fi, I make sure I'm using Surfshark, the sponsor of this video. And doing so ensures that my connection is encrypted before it actually hits that local network. And then day to day, I make sure to use Surfshark's clean web tools, specifically the ad blocker and the cookie pop-up blocker. So while I'm researching, I'm not bombarded with ads and these tracker banners on every page. And then for any new random site signups, I'll use Surfshark's alternative ID instead of my real email, which only takes a matter of seconds, and it cuts down the spam and keeps my actual inbox off of all of those lists. And Surfshark does enable unlimited devices on one account, so it's on the laptops and iPads and phones for my entire family. So if you'd like to support the work I do here, you can start your 7-day free trial and unlock 4 extra months of Surfshark VPN by heading to surfshark.com/electrified or by using code electrified at checkout. On the customer FSD front, AI Driver shared this clip from his mother's Tesla, and in a parking lot, it backed directly into the shopping cart stall. And really, it's behavior like this that is totally baffling. I mean, plain as day in the cameras to see these rails, and it backs right into it. And I share these unfortunate clips just as a reminder for everybody to stay vigilant, because as FSD gets better and better, it becomes easier and easier to relax, and sometimes these things can happen. And of course, there are plenty of very impressive highlights out there, like this one I've always been interested in. How will it react if there's a threat coming from behind? So you have this white BMW, and the Tesla vehicle in question is this one on the right. So the BMW bounces off the truck, and you can see it's tough to tell from this angle, but the Tesla already starts moving to the left. And here it is from the back. The BMW will be coming up on the right. Tesla's moving over to get out of the way. Had it not, it likely would have been hit. So yes, plenty of incredible performance highlights out there, but at this point, I think it makes sense for us to focus on the march of the nines, the things that need work. At this point, I was going to run a little segment on the merger discussion right now, but I realized I think most people have some level of merger fatigue. And sadly, I do too, to some degree. So I'm going to hold off mostly until we get a tangible offer that we can actually analyze. But the only thing I did want to say is, while I have no idea what Elon is actually doing, I cannot claim to know his intent, I will say the optics of his commentary and what he's doing seem to be trying to pave the way for a SpaceX acquisition of Tesla. Even something like the recent SpaceX all-hands meeting that they just made public, which, by the way, Tesla has only done that one time in its entire public history. And watching the event, it just seemed odd. I mean, we really didn't learn anything new, and I don't want to read too far into it. Maybe he really is just trying to get SpaceX employees to understand that over the next 5 years, 99% of the value of SpaceX will be driven by AI, which I can guarantee you is still not well understood, perhaps even by some SpaceX employees at this point. But rather than waste your time with hypotheticals, I just wanted to make it clear, if you are frustrated with this whole situation, I completely understand, and I do think it is justified. The unfortunate reality is there's not a whole lot Elon can do. I'm sure if this is going to happen, he's pushing it forward as quickly as possible, but this is going to be a historic merger that's going to take a long time for the lawyers and the boards to get it right. But until the market and investors get some clarity on this, we might be stuck in this uncomfortable gray area for the foreseeable future. And all of that to make this one point: in the event of a merger or acquisition where there's a change in control, as is laid out for Elon's new compensation plan, if that change in control is met, that means the operational milestones like FSD, robotaxis, bots, vehicle deliveries, and adjusted EBITDA, all of those goals would be thrown out the window. Earning these tranches would then be measured against the 12 market cap ladders. And I'm seeing some folks out there saying that this would mean SpaceX's value could contribute toward Elon earning tranches under Tesla's performance award, but that is not the case. The tranches would be earned or not based only on the implied valuation that Tesla would receive in the event of that transaction. But perhaps even more importantly, in the event of this merger or acquisition, the boards are likely to to renegotiate these performance awards altogether. Likely not starting from scratch, but I would expect some level of reconfiguration. And lastly, SpaceX is not going to make a bid for Tesla that would imply a $6, $7, $8 trillion valuation that would just automatically earn all of those shares for Elon. I think some people out there are trying to make it seem like Elon's been gaming the system the whole time and this has been the plan all along. But for now, just know that is absolutely not the case. Elon is not about to fleece Tesla investors here. And even though the operational milestones would fall off, that does not mean the market cap tranches will be automatically earned. So again, we'll talk about this a lot more in the future when we have more detail, but no need to fret about it right now. If you've been following along, you know that I have said in the near term, Digital Optimus is a faster path to revenue and a valuation altering service than physical Optimus is, which is exactly why Grok is so critical. Farzad mistakenly claimed that Grok is Digital Optimus, to which Elon said, Digital Optimus is different. It's real-time video human emulation. First of all, this is Grok. I have been playing with it for the past 24 hours. I did end up paying for the $200 a month Cursor Ultra so that I could try it and test it out, because I do believe this is a precursor or a taste of what Digital Optimus will be. But it's clear to me many don't understand what's happening here with Grok, so just a few high-level differences of why it is somewhat novel relative to what else is out there. Each of these bots has its own dedicated persistent virtual machine, meaning you can set your task and then ultimately shut down the computer, close your laptop, and they will continue working. These bots can also sign into websites that have no API and no MCP connector, so they can use their dedicated computers in the cloud just like a human would, which is why it's understandable to think this is Digital Optimus. Further, these bots can talk to and work with one another. So if you type you can see, you can effectively tag all of your different bots or any of a number of different plugins. So I could have my personal assistant and my code and deploy bot talking to one another, working together. And for the average normie, if you will, this has been the easiest agentic setup I have ever tested. And some of you know, I try almost every product and service out there. So from downloading the platform to connecting to Gmail, Google Calendar, and so on, it took me about 10 minutes. Another overlooked feature is you can actually teach this routine. So you would go to the virtual machine and see the computer web layout as you would in your own computer. You then hit record and then click and type around as you would. I logged into Sleeper for the fantasy football league that I run and went to the scores and leaderboard page. So that activity is now saved and taught to these bots. And so now every Sunday when the season starts, I'll have that routine and it'll drop an update of the scoring and the standings right here running automatically. Of course, I haven't had time to push the limits of what I can do here, but once you log into really any website, any platform, and click around any task you want to automate, this in theory will learn how to do it, and then it can save it as a routine to run as frequently as you would like. Now, as with all agentic AI, there are risks. This is in a beta phase, so don't take this as I'm encouraging all of you to go spend $200 and start playing around. But I will say, so far, it's been a great, seamless experience for me. And an awesome feature for me, from my phone with the Grokbot app, I can now retrieve files from my Mac Studio desktop. So from my phone, I had it find a video file on my desktop. It then compressed that file and dropped it right into my cell phone that I could save into my files. And from a user interface standpoint, this is the type of thing I would feel comfortable introducing to my wife, who's not a tech-forward person. So mark my words right here, this is the beginning of something truly incredible. And to compare this beta to Cowork or Codex, I think is a bit silly. Let's give it some time to settle in and mature and ship some more features. But I'm sharing all of this to set up the explanation for how Digital Optimus will be different. And that is how it sees and reacts and what hardware it's running on. So right now, something like Grokbot sees a screenshot. It then thinks and clicks, sees a new screenshot, thinks, and clicks. Digital Optimus, on the other hand, is going to see a real-time video of the past 5 seconds of a computer screen and interact exactly like a human would. So this entire time, think about FSD. And remember, Digital Optimus is supposed to run locally on AI for inference hardware, not in the cloud on a virtual machine like Grokbot is running right now. Now, for Digital Optimus, Grok is going to be involved as the high-level orchestrator, if you will, but the goal is to keep that cloud thinking and orchestration minimal and run a majority of the work locally with Tesla's inference hardware. And the three biggest reasons for optimizing like that with Digital Optimus: cost, latency, and scale. But yes, in Farzad's defense, there are plenty of similarities from a user side perspective. A lot of the differences might be under the hood, if you will. But I have to say, this is an incredibly exciting development because this leads me to believe that a Digital Optimus release, at least in beta form, might actually come sometime later this year. And as I've been saying now on and off for the past year, Digital Optimus, in my opinion, is the most slept on product set to come from Tesla, and ultimately I don't think it's that close. And it has the potential to be a meaningful driver of adoption and market valuation changes before physical Optimus. And earlier this year, we talked about how anybody doubting that Elon and SpaceXAI will be able to catch up in the AI realm is foolish. Well, it's all coming to fruition right now. Gavin Baker said Shaitan is one of the best VCs, who said, incredible achievement by SpaceXAI and Cursor. Enterprises and startups have already figured out Grok is a great model. The market opportunity is immense as Anthropic continues to be difficult to work with and is deeply unreliable as a partner. That, after Gavin said, absolute Pareto dominance for Grok and Cursor even after the OpenAI price cuts. This for Grok 4.6, which was just released. Gavin said Grok 4.6 is roughly the same performance as Fable 5 Max at an 85% discount, 80% cheaper for input tokens, and 88% cheaper for output tokens. Pareto dominant. But I don't love how SpaceXAI shared this post comparing Grok 4.6 to GPT and Fable. They highlighted every data point for Grok 4.6 as if they were leading in every category. But looking at the numbers, that's not the case. I mean, look at this row, 61.3 for 4.6, whereas Fable 5 was up near 65%. So why is SpaceXAI highlighting this as if they're leading in that category? It's not. So I don't want to make a mountain out of a molehill here, but I just don't love how they presented these numbers. But what is a solid takeaway is to see the jump in performance from Grok 4.5 to 4.6. In short, across the board, based on these benches, it's an incredible jump. And today, Elon said Grok 4.7 is significantly better than 4.6 and should be ready in 3 to 4 weeks. Initial training is complete, and now we're adding a massive amount of SpaceX company data and supplemental training. This will be something special. Elon also said Grok 4.7 will exceed all current models. That said, Anthropic is a great company and will probably release improved models soon. However, the SpaceX training corpus is so awesome and unique that I would be shocked if any model is better at real-world engineering than 4.7. Ron DeSantis held a press conference this week where he did highlight both Waymo and Tesla's Cybercab, talking about the SunTrax testing grounds in Florida. But the context that's been widely left out is that this event was primarily for testing eVTOLs, which is electric vertical takeoff and landing type vehicles, and that testing is set to begin at SunTrax in Florida later this year. But nice to have a prominent figure talking positively about Waymo and the Cybercab. Speaking of flying vehicles, Elon just said, "You will get flying cars." And replying to a post about the Roadster demo being unforgettable, Elon said, "Yes." And it's true, Franz recently said that the Roadster is coming soon, TM, but at this point, guys, I will believe it when I see it. And look, would there be a better time to debut that vehicle than at an event where Elon and co are providing the rationale for why a SpaceX and Tesla merger or acquisition should happen? I mean, excitement would be guaranteed at that one. On the Terafab and that 3,000 high quality job number in Texas, Elon clarified that's 3,000 jobs just for phase 1 of 10, by the way. And remember, phase 1 is set to cost just under $17 billion. Of course, not all 10 phases need to cost the same amount, but there is a reason I said this project will easily fly past $100 billion of capex. Tesla app updates is seeing that the high demand and busier than usual messaging for Robotaxi might be leading to a virtual booking queue in a future update. But listen, long term, no user is going to want to join a queue and wait 30 to 60 minutes for a ride. So this might be a short-term band-aid, but long-term, this is not going to get the job done. This image is going around from Waymo, showing its factory in Arizona with just under 1,000 OHI vehicles in the lot. Something to keep an eye on, because this would be in the neighborhood of 25% of Waymo's entire deployed fleet. Now, will they be replacing Jaguar I-Paces in a one-for-one trade-off, or will these just be added in addition to? Time will tell. And in that all-hands meeting from Elon and SpaceX, we did learn they now have over 13 million Starlink broadband customers, and they did double down, saying that by the end of next year, they expect to have 10 gigawatts of nameplate capacity. And at that $30 to $50 per watt rate that Elon mentioned, that could translate into $300 to $500 billion in revenue. So can they bring on nearly an order of magnitude more compute in the next 18 months? All I know is it'll be quite entertaining to see how Elon's predictions for SpaceX pan out. And today was a perfect day for the merger playbook, with Tesla closing at $327.51, down 1.59%, while SpaceX closed at $146.15, up 9.65%. This while the NDX was up 0.74%. Don't forget, check out Surfshark, linked below for anybody interested, and thank you guys for supporting the channel in that way. It truly is the reason I can continue to do this. Hope you all have a wonderful day, and a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.